What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having my friend. He is a fellow wrestling connoisseur. He is also a fellow podcaster, but a badass fucking trail runner. He's the one, the only, Jacob Grondy. Jacob, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Went to a concert. My voice is a little rough, but I'm still doing it with you. I'm pushing through, just like on the trail, or just like the baby face in wrestling. I got to have that crowd clapping me on today with this with my throat here.
This is your comeback, essentially.
That's
Hell
right.
yes. Hell yes. Oh, and a fellow podcaster, Flobo Boys, says, yeah, man. Fuck yeah, emojis. Shout out to Flobo. But holy shit, bro. You are much like Flobo. Flobo was one of the, Maria Menounos after buzzers and all that jazz. And I was, listening and watching him and all the whole cast of characters on AfterBuzz do the after Raw, after SmackDown, after NXT shows. Hell, Daria, who's now Sonya Deville, was on it. There's a litany of people on it, and I would watch that coming home from shows, going like one day, right? And I listen to your podcast, and it's fucking phenomenal. So it's kind of
Thank
weird
you.
that we're doing this because, like, I'm a fan of you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Good to hear. Yeah, I really appreciate you reaching out, man. It was cool to set up a time. I'm pretty busy with everything I got going on, but thanks to you being flexible and everything, we made it work.
Yeah, I deal in like fighters and pro wrestlers. I mean, yes, I do other things. I've had artists and all kinds of cool stuff. But I'd say 90% of the content is wrestling and fighters. So you're gonna tell them to show up on time, which
Oh
some
yeah.
are awesome, and then some maybe we're doing it an hour after. So I was like, you know what? Screw this, like Tuesday at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. No, we're doing it whenever the hell.
Yeah, I used to do interviews too, and I kind of stopped it because of that. Like, we all had a time. I called the guy, and he answered, and he was like, "I'm at a bowling alley with my kids," and I was like, "Oh, well, you definitely can't do a podcast at a bowling alley. That's it'd be one thing if he was somewhere else, but a bowling alley, you know, all the strikes and everything wasn't gonna work out."
Was that the worst?
Yeah, I think that was the worst because he had no clue. He was like, "Who is this?" He was kind of upset, and he's on AEW right now too. He was kind of a lower level guy when I was interviewing him, but now the bowling alley visits haven't stopped his career, so good for him. But I think that was the worst, and then that was the worst.
I had, let's see, what did I have? There's a gentleman who wanted to get a feel of me because he'd been pretty much shitted on by other what he felt was media person, and I make that deal. I'm like, I'm not a media guy. I'm an interviewer and a podcaster. If you give me media credentials, stuff, but there's not a soundbite, whatever, or clickbaity, whatever the fuck, that is going to make me want to do that, right? But we talked for fucking 4 hours to the extent my wife was like, "Who's that bitch?" And I'm like, "No, it's a dude, and he's a fighter. Definitely not a bitch." No, she didn't say that because she doesn't even curse. It's more me than anything. But day of the thing, hour passes, 2 hour passes, then find out he calls. I mean, he is on the link, and he's on a fucking lake
That's
fishing
awesome.
with Bluetooth that might as well have been dunked in the water, and then like it was like, oh, whatever. And he seemed disappointed that we didn't do the 3 hours like our telephone conversation. It's like, bro, I can't. Like, yes, it's like we're not doing that. I've had, and it's not bad, but I've had people like, oh yeah, before I won that title, I was like, doing lines and shit like that. And I was like, what? What?
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, so fun shit. But how did you get into the? I mean, you're in. I guess total disclosure. I mean, you're in the Carolinas.
Hmm.
A mid Atlantic hotbed. I love the territories. That's something that I go back to. I'm not much watching much of WWE nowadays. And it seems like the cool indie, smart mark thing to say. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. I've been told over and over, I'm not their for 20 some odd years at this point, I'm not their target demographic. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not. I'm not that. I have a Peacock network because my wife and I watch Punky Brewster or the reboot. So how did you get into pro wrestling?
I've been into pro wrestling my whole life. My dad was an indie wrestler. Yeah, yeah. He was also good friends with John Hitchcock and Bruce Mitchell.
Hmm.
I used to go to Bruce's house for pay per views when I was like real little kid, and it was awesome because they had tons of toys that no one played with other than me, and uh, that's pretty much how I started. There's videotape of me with a Ron Simmons figure when I was before I could walk, because he was the champion when I was a very little baby, and he was beating up the plastic bag he came in, and that was like the first video of me ever as alive. And so I've been a fan my whole life. I got into podcasting because my buddy Peter Day, he's a DJ here in the Carolinas, so he had a lot of equipment, and we would talk about wrestling at the bar, and we just kind of jumped over. I kind of was more into it than him. He was more into things that could make him like direct money. So he has a T-shirt business now, Cut the
Wow.
Music Prints, which is doing pretty well. And I just kept going with it, and just little by little, just had fun with it. And now I'm talking to you.
No, but I think that's well, especially Hitchcock and Mitchell.
Yeah.
For those, I mean, to the preeminent, guys in terms of covering, wrestling and such. Do they find it fun that you're doing podcasting now?
Oh yeah, they love it. They're second generation front row section D. That's where they used to sit in the Greensboro Coliseum. So that's how they call me. That's how they refer to me as. I think Mitchell gets he likes it a little bit more than John. John just kind of he's more of a relaxed guy. Believe it or not, more of a relaxed guy. When you talk to him, he owns a comic book shop here.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, in Greensboro. Yeah. So he just sits back and sells comic books and talks about UNC basketball and pro wrestling all day.
Wow, that's cool to have
Hmm.
other like like there be times, right, where I'm in the back with the locker room and like a fighter's getting their hand wrapped or maybe go backstage at an indie show and whatever, right? And these guys and girls who do phenomenal things with their bodies, their fists, and what have you, and then they're also talking about, like, the MMA fighters might be talking about pro wrestling. The
Yeah.
pro wrestlers might be talking about the MMA fights, right? And it's funny
Hmm.
because, like, pro wrestling fans, some don't like MMA, right? Especially, like,
Hmm.
right now you got Dan Lambert, got to bring out American Top Teams guys and whatever. I hear, like, in my DMs, like, who the fuck is this guy? Blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, that's Junior Dos Santos. The King
Yeah.
Velasquez guys that again you also didn't like, even though that dude was doing topes and hurricane ranas or Frankensteiners. Sorry, Scott Steiner, big Papa Pump. Frankensteiners. Like, well, Junior Dos Santos fucking knocked his ass out. Like the flying knee that George Masvidal, did on Jericho when they were holding
Hmm.
him back. Well, that was the thing that I saw on your guys' social media pages, going like, oh my god, what the hell is this? When he fucking KOs Ben Askren with the same fucking move, right? So
Hmm.
it's weird and hypocritical, right? But also, you know, when they then it goes into like comics or whatever movie or whatever the fuck, and I'm all like, I just kind of focus on like the things in the ring and in the eventual cage. So I feel like I'm kind of inept because I know nothing else but punchy, kicky, slammy stuff, and everybody knows. I'm so glad my wife and kids do not watch wrestling because I think I would be in a corner, not in my studio apartment, but just like in a corner, just like, like the fucking little goblin from Lord of the Rings, like just trying to find out every type of wrestling all around the fucking world, or
Oh yeah.
MMA all around the world.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just recently moved in with my girlfriend. She's like, "Did you always watch this much wrestling?" And I'm like, "Actually, I've toned back since I got to set time for Bachelor in Paradise with her, just so I make sure to not solely watch just G1 coverage. This time of year. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Oh my god. And again, I
Have
I
you been watching?
swear, I I need to catch up. I
Mm.
really do. I've actually a good friend of the podcast and just a good friend in general, Marie Shadows over on Twitter. I've been keeping up with her. She's got a editorial, and that's somebody who, if you want to interview, I would DM her. She is great, first off, but everybody has like 90 days at work or whatever. Her 90 days was at working for the WWE network.
Oh, nice. That's
And
cool.
it's cool, but it's probably the wildest fucking 90-day, what is it, the trial run of an employee that you could get. Because, I mean, there's, not to divulge too much of her story, I'll let her tell you, and she's a podcaster herself. But I mean, this includes like lunches paid for by Vince McMahon, but also just like how the writers' room, we hear, Court Bauer, before he revamped the promotion to MLW, but him, MSL, and Conan. We're talking about on the podcast, like with the writers' room. There was actually a podcast, like Alex Greenfield, who also used to be a WWE writer, and they're fucking talking about like what goes on in the writers' room and just like some actor here or whatever, and it's actually looked down upon if you're a wrestling fan being in the writers' room, right? Versus somebody from Hollywood or what have you. Well, at least the time where Marie was working there, the same goes for people who input shit into the fucking network. And her like ideological deal was like, wait, you have to know who these people are to input them into the fucking network and also the
Yeah.
content and whatever. And she's like, hey, you guys wonder why your fucking WWE network search engine sucked ass? Well, that's why. Because nobody knew shit about pro wrestling.
That's a shame. And we're just sitting here right now talking to each other. We could be getting paid over there.
I would never. I think I've said enough stuff over the years, and to never get hired by the UFC, WWE, maybe Bellator, but also maybe AEW.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So yeah, so that's not my deal. I like, and when it's good, it's good. Like AEW probably hasn't been better. New Japan hasn't been better. GCW, fuck, they were. I attended my first GCW show. It was Jonathan Gresham and Minoru Suzuki on top.
Damn. That was
That's
good.
blew my fucking mind. And also what blows my fucking mind about GCW in general, right? That night it started off, with a fucking crazy. I think it was like a 3-on-3-on-3, just fucking spot fest, just fucking crazy, right? Then it
Hmm.
was Jordan Oliver from MLW and a lot of other places, and Alex Zane. And these are guys who tower over me. And the flippy shit they were doing, I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, fuck. Like, I've seen clips of both, right? Like, MLW, like, I don't dig the injustice. It's just not my cup of tea. Oliver and his tag partner in
Myron
Myron
Reed.
Reed, yeah. It's just not my cup of tea. I think when I, I don't think it's hard to believe. I don't care where it is, right? WWE, UFC, Bellator, Combate America, AEW, what have you. A lot of the people, a lot of the people that hold the cards, right, that set up the brass ring, are hard in the paint right wing, and that's no harm, no foul, or whatever. But when they do like, like liberal based like initiatives, like an
Mm.
Injustice or Top Flight having the Black Lives Matter bans or whatever, and I'm like, oh, it's virtue signaling because they know there's money in that. It's AEW heels. Inclusive place for women, and you're
Yeah.
not getting anything different than what you get for free on maybe AEW Dark or Dark Elevation, right? And it's behind a paywall,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
inclusive,
yeah.
you
And
know?
also, you kind of notice that it's kind of like done in jest and also done like half-ass.
Hmm?
If you look back, like last year when they were doing, what was that group with, um, where they had the mask on WWE? They came out, they cut the ropes down and
Yes,
SmackDown.
fucking Retribution.
Retribution, yeah, that was like the most, like I think a prime example of what you're talking about, where like they didn't know where they were going. They just kind of knew that they wanted to kind of make fun of it, but also make money off of it, and it ended up just getting, just went away. Like I think T-Bar and what Slapjack is now
Dick
a
face or
crocodile.
something, yeah. And all, I mean, talent, like they couldn't, I mean, aside from like what, Dio Madden,
Hmm.
that I'm all like, Dio, and then fucking, I play Madden fucking video games and shit like that. I'm like, that's cool. That's a cool name. But all of them are fucking accomplished workers, and then they what? But this is Retribution made me make Josh Barnett fucking cringe, like because like Shayna's there, that's his fucking student and whatever, right? But I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, do you remember what else happened the night Retribution made their debut on Raw?
I can't say I do, or it's not
Raw
coming to mind.
Underground,
Oh yeah,
where they're supposed to be legit fucking badasses, right, folks? Right?
yeah.
So how can you have in segment whatever the fuck like three, oh Raw Underground again, and anybody that's seen like a jujitsu whatever or an MMA fight, yeah, you got ring girls and everything like that, but not on a fucking stripper pole. That shit looked like TNA circa 2004. Right, like with fucking Wildcat and whatever dancing in a cage or whatever the fuck, right? So but okay, so you've got badasses here, right? But then now it takes the heat off of everybody else because you do flippy shit while these two are knocking each other out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then also in the first, they were brought in later. I don't even think one of the people that I'm about to mention were, actually went into Raw Underground. But you've got like Nakamura, who's got legit fucking MMA wins, right?
Hmm.
I think he's 6-4. Under that Antonio Noki where he wanted all of his fucking wrestlers and shit to do MMA, and he slaps the shit out of you if you win or lose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Shayna Baszler and Matt Riddle. You have those three on your fucking roster.
Nowhere to
Those
be
three on
seen.
your
Nowhere to be seen on Raw
nowhere
Underground.
to be seen. But in any event, you got these badasses, right? Which makes everything else look like, dog shit because you're told everyone that these are the badasses. So if you're flippy shit, you could have a Ricochet match, whatever, and it doesn't hit the way that a Ricochet match is supposed to hit you, right? And then you
Yeah,
fucking end with Retribution. Why don't you get the motherfuckers from segment 3 to fucking final segment?
for sure. I mean, yeah, it's funny to think about how like they're still talking about how to rebuild Raw, and I don't watch Raw regularly. You just said you don't watch too much,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been 2, 3 years, failed attempt after failed attempt, and I don't know. I mean, the lasting impression of Raw Underground is the debut of Almas, and I mean, yeah, it's very good to pair him with AJ Styles. I would say that once that split happens, he's dead in the water. They're gonna find another big guy.
Haven't they learned from fucking what Giant Gonzalez, Great Khali, Nathan Jones,
Oh yeah,
like Almonds? Almost
I guess not.
no, 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 and so there's a couple guys in the UFC, right, who literally, to me, Curtis Blades is one of them, right? I think he's ranked number 4 in the heavyweight division. He looks like the missing link. his head size is just, he looks like the missing link. Like, that evolutionary chart, like from monkeys to like where we are now. Like, he looks like right in the middle. As does Almost. Like, Osmos looks like just right in the middle, not fully formed. Houston Alexander, who used to fight in the UFC, I think he does bare knuckle now. But he looked like a fetus, like he grown, and just his muscle type and everything, and big ass head looked like a fetus, just a muscled out fetus fighting you and knocking you the fuck out. So Almost does absolutely dog shit, like for me. Like, he's got a weird body type. He can't really speak. It's so Steve Mongo McMichael, they say like he had happy feet in the ring, right? Like where what is it, Botchamania, as well as WrestleBotch on Instagram. Shout out to them. But they have the Mongo Mondays or whatever, and him just like well, Almost is like the exact opposite, almost like Kali, where
Oh yeah.
visibly watching him walk makes my legs hurt. Like, I get a weird thing in my knee. It's weird. Like, and like,
I,
yeah,
I also, not to interrupt, but I also think it's funny. It's crazy how they had Braun Strowman. They let him go. I know he's a Carolina boy. I might be biased, but I think he could way better talker, way better worker. And I'm not saying he was good at either one, but
right.
why would you let him go? Especially when you saw what. Remember a few years ago when Big Show and Braun were in the Staples Center. They had a
Hmm.
great match. So maybe
Yeah.
you could have that Braun Almost moment. I don't know, possibly.
Fuck.
Uh,
They do Braun Breaker, Rick Steiner son. Their need for a fucking Braun.
oh yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
I
Why
just,
wouldn't you have the Steiner name? I mean, I'm beating a dead horse here, but why wouldn't he could be Braun Steiner? You know?
yeah. I mean, it's just Steiner, but that also shows like the heat that Scott has with the fucking company. That Triple H with all the, I'm sorry. To me, he's the heart attack kid, because and my dad and uncle passed away from a heart attack, so it's nothing to joke about, heart disease. But also, that might be the way that I meet the maker. Just genetically speaking, right? So, with that all being said, for all of the things, right, that Triple H, is lauded for with NXT and like developing, seemingly indie guys like Kevin Owens or a New Japan Nakamura or in Kushida, right? Think of all the fucking motherfuckers he buried.
Oh yeah.
Like, we wanted to get behind Booker T. Booker T theoretically should have had a way bigger run, right?
Oh yeah.
Scott Steiner, look, they're like, oh, well, Scott Steiner's too injury prone. Within a year, they give the title to Hogan yet again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they didn't, if Vince didn't create you, you're done. Like, look
Mhm.
at Karrion Cross. Look at the Bearcat Keith Lee. I mean, these are guys you can't fuck up. And
Is that what they're
I
calling fucking Keith Lee now?
yeah, that's the name they're trying to get across, the Bearcat. I mean,
Oh,
I get it if he was from Cincinnati because that's the Cincinnati Bearcats. That's their university there. But he's from fucking Texas. He's nowhere near a Bearcat.
so you do know what's going on, right?
What's up? The cell?
So I think Vince and the current president here in the United States, they're about the same age range within a couple of years, maybe. I think there's some dementia happening, and I'm not saying that in jest. Like, I actually, I'm half Fijian, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of Islander people, when they come over to the states, we become, like live-in, orderlies, RNs, that type of stuff. We go into the medical field, right? There, at the very least, there's head CTE in both, right? But you could make an argument for an Alzheimer's or a dementia, right? So with that all being said, who is on top? Kind of where Vince meets his dad. Obviously, we know, Vince, grew up in a trailer park in North Carolina, right?
Hmm.
With his mom, Vicky Askew, and what have you. They know of the dad, and the dad was sending the mom money. That's why Vince goes to military school and everything like that, even though they live in the trailer. But when he gets into it, obviously, Jerry Graham is his idol. He bleaches his hair as a 16-year-old kid. But also, Bearcat fucking right. Bearcat fucking right. Big guy, similar to Keith Lee, and was probably one of the major draws of the territories in a time of Jim Crow, where there was segregation. So that's what
This
they're
is
going
true.
with.
I guess, yeah. I mean, they're reaching way back. Um, I don't think it'll work.
You
I think
you
it's
mentioned Carry On Cross, right?
mhm.
And this whatever. He's a great dude. Like he's
Yeah.
somebody. No, I mean, for somebody that is in wrestling, but also has that MMA style. He's trained with a lot of legit guys and girls in Vegas and whatever. MMA and pro wrestling. Those are some hard waters to navigate through. There, i- there is nobody that has anything bad to say about the real life Kevin Cross. Scarlett as well. They are absolute sweethearts, right? And then fucking awesome, right? The pairing in
Mhm.
NXT and the fucking whatever. I was just like, yeah, they're gonna shit on him. So I didn't even watch the damn his debut, right? And
It
then
was
when they
awful.
posted the on Twitter or wherever the fuck, like it was trending his Carry On Cross, and I was like, I was already down on that name. I'm like,
Mhm.
Kevin Cross, Killer Cross. Like I know you can't do Killer, right? But you did announced in the Mae Young Classic Killer Kelly, but we're not supposed to remember that. Uh, but he's awesome. He's so fucking awesome. And then I saw the intro and I was like, oh shit, and I got behind it. And that's one of the things that, when done right, the WWE is at their best, right? The
Mhm.
production values and what have you. And whoever, whether it be Trips or. It definitely wasn't Vince because we're seeing Vince's view of, of Cross now, which, crazy enough, are you familiar with Lord Humongous?
The name rings a bell, but not. I don't know
So
too much.
Lord Humongous was, I guess, he was in the fucking Blade Runner movie with Mel Gibson back in the day, right?
Okay. Okay.
Or yeah. And it's funny because the Road Warriors and Lord Humongous both come from it. But Lord
And even the
Humongous,
the Thunderdome, right? The
yes,
two
even the
man and one
Thunderdome,
man. Yeah.
100%. So it's crazy because Lord Humongous was played by this gentleman from West Memphis named Sid Udy.
Yeah.
Familiar with Psycho fucking Sid? Sid
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Justice is fucking
I
whatever.
didn't know that. I
Yeah,
gotta watch that movie now.
put it in the Google machine, right? Um, Lord Humongous wrestler, right?
Mhm.
Then, if you're not convinced enough, do you know Unabomb back in
The
Smoky Mountain?
no, no. It's
Okay, Unabomb was played by Glenn Jacobs, right? As a way of playing on the real life Ted Kaczynski sending fucking mail bombs to people. Yeah,
okay.
they made a gimmick on that, but it looked like Lord Humongous from what 10, 15 years earlier. I would say 10 years at that point, 85 to 95. Yeah, so about 10. Well, again, Glenn Jacobs goes on to go Dr. Isaac Yankem DDS,
Mm.
then Kane, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's
And now the
a
mayor of Knoxville.
yeah, exactly. So if you look, you put on the Google machine the fucking attire of one Lord Humongous in Memphis, right? At Unabomb and Carry On Cross, it's just like the love child of those two.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're going way back. They're going 25 years back. They're going a quarter century back. I guess if you're trying to play into, play like get kids to watch, I guess they won't remember that. But I think kids like different shit now, or yeah,
Yeah,
different shit. Yeah, and also like kids also they saw NXT, and they saw how cool it was to have Scarlett come out and everything. And we hear about the the ratings in India when Scarlett's on the TV and everything. So it makes no sense. I mean, shit, I'm not changing the channel when Scarlett's on the TV.
Hmm.
So like, it makes no sense why you wouldn't bring them up together, especially if you're losing Bray, that dark character on
Right?
Raw, to just replace him with that other dark character. And Scarlett and Cross seems way better than a Bray Alexa, in my opinion,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to fire Bray.
No,
So it, it baffles me. It baffles me.
no,
Uh,
it's WWE booking, right? Because like they got lucky with Taker, right? They got
mhm.
lucky. They wanted to debut that motherfucker in an egg at Survivor Series, what, 90?
Yeah,
Right? He
yeah,
could have, and you know, even he was just like, oh no, I'm gonna be Eggman, like, right?
yeah.
Like I'm gonna be Eggman and whatever, right? And you would argue that if Taker debuted now, he's not getting over worth a fucking damn.
Egg or not, yeah. I would agree, especially if they put him over like they did in the '90s, where you just have him, Yokozuna, uh, Kamala, all just job to him.
Fuck
I think people
Hogan.
would be, yeah,
Hogan wouldn't
people would
even
be,
drop to Brett, but jumps to Taker, but then grabs it right back. What is it?
yeah.
You know what? The following pay per view, like,
WrestleMania 9.
yeah,
That buried Yokozuna too, because Brett just beat Yokozuna. Yokozuna, you're big, your monster is an
monster.
afterthought, all to help Hogan. Like, how did they not? I mean, hindsight's 2020, but come on, how did they not see like they're a long way? Vegas is a long way from Canada. WrestleMania 3 is a long way from WrestleMania 9. They should have. The writing was there. I think. I think I would honestly, if we're gonna fantasy book, I would have had Yokozuna beat Brett. I would have had him keep the title.
At 9?
At 9, yeah, yeah. I think Yokozuna's highly underrated for
I
his
like it.
size. Uh,
I I like it
best.
because so my I mean total disclosure, my favorite Mania is 10. It's 10.
Mhm.
You talk about going back to the well, right? So um, they would use this literally fucking 20 years later with Mania 30 with Daniel Bryan, right? So
Mhm.
what do you got, right? So Brett is embroiled with a feud with his brother, right, Owen. So that's an opening match, arguably the greatest opening match in Mania history. And you could put that match anywhere. You could put that shit at Tokyo Dome, any era, fucking Stampede, Florida, you know, back in the day with like Kevin Sullivan and Dark Journey and fucking the Mark Lewin, the Purple Haze and shit like that. You could put that match there and it still stands up. How many years later? 25 years later? What? Oh, 20 years after Owen's unfortunate untimely death, it still fucking stands up, right? Then you got some matches in between, whatever. Then you tie up the fucking loose ends that was Luger and Brett going over, supposedly simultaneously at Rumble, right? So they got to fucking blow that shit off, whatever. And again, I'm sorry, Lex, you don't pass go, you don't collect the $200, right? Brett goes on, faces Yoko, and you bring out fucking Perfect, you bring out Piper, like all of these people when Yoko fucking essentially slips on a banana peel doing the bonsai, Brett
Mhm.
covers him, or oh no, there was a sharpshooter, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sharpshooter, and then again, going into post Mania, that year booking, right? You got Owen coming out, right? Macho Man holding the fucking ropes, like Owen, come on. Burt Reynolds and what's it? Up All Night's Rhonda Shears, like congratulating Brett, and Owen is just like, and walks back. And again, concise fucking booking, and it's weird because like my favorite time is usually like it's the early '90s, both WCW and WWF. Right, that was my time. I actually dug the fucking Duke the Dumpster Drosies. I actually dug the fucking Thurman Sparky Plug. I was like, I didn't know shit about NASCAR or
Yeah.
racing or whatever, but I'm all like, oh, like he's a dual sport athlete. And again, the '80s, '90s. Think about a Deion Sanders, right? They came
Yeah.
out. Well, Sanders came after, but definitely Bo Jackson,
Hmm.
right? Baseball and fucking football, dual sport athlete. I was like, this guy, he might fucking run over somebody. Fuck a fucking sugar hole. He might just take his car and run it into the ring and pandemonium and bedlam, right? So that's it, And look at what WCW had. One of my favorite fucking pay per views of all time, at least concept wise. Like they're bringing back war games and everything like that. But Slamboree, Legends Continue, where you'd be reading an aftermag or whatever and hear about Lou Thez or Thunderbolt Patterson, right? A lot of people are like, oh, Dusty, right? Everybody gets their shit from Dusty or Superstar. Where did Superstar and Dusty get this shit from? Oh, Thunderbolt Patterson. And look no further than, I mean, he's probably maybe 50s, maybe even 60s at this point. But Thunderbolt Patterson wrestles at Slumberee, I want to say 93, right? Where Harley Race, Lou Thez, there's a couple other people. I mean, there's a litany of people. I think Jody Hamilton, the assassin, right?
Hmm.
There's about 8 guys in that get inducted to the WCW Hall of Fame. But right after they do the induction ceremony, which I thought is fucking weird, they go to fucking Thunderbolt Patterson. And all of the jibe, right? That you saw later in Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man, that you saw in Billy Graham, Superstar Billy Graham, you saw in Dusty. Thunderbolt did it first, and he's still doing that shit in the fucking what is it? In '93 into maybe his like late '50s, early '60s, and that shit still got over.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit, I mean, then you can even go for like Superstar, Scott Steiner. I mean,
Scott
it's
Steiner,
still, yeah, the
Hogan.
ripple effects to this
Yeah,
day for
Scott Steiner,
sure.
Hogan, Jesse Ventura. It's. But again,
Hmm.
these are things that again we're taught to not remember, right? We're
Oh
taught
yeah.
not to remember. Like you can have a guy as a as a fucking savage head shrinker, then he's making a difference as a kind of rapper gangster guy, right? You
Hmm.
make a
Yeah.
difference, Fatu. Then he plays the Sultan,
Hmm. Which looks a lot like Karrion Cross now.
right? But this is it, man. I think they've
Hmm.
got like 8 gimmicks, right? Like how Bruce
Oh
Richard
yeah.
talks about the box of gimmicks. They've got 8 gimmicks, and those 8 gimmicks are like those are the money gimmicks. And until they find somebody like, and I would introduce a ninth because of Cena, right? We don't know what the fuck Cena was. Like Cena started out great, but everything that made Cena great was the shit that Vince McMahon wanted to fire his ass for,
Yeah. They just
right?
had him as like the hometown hero, the
Mm-hmm.
hometown underdog. Like wear the colors of the hometown, and possibly win, possibly like what? How did that was? I don't know. I actually visited Ohio Valley before when I was a kid
Oh wow.
with my dad, and I saw the prototype, and he cracked. My dad loved it. He thought he was hilarious because he was a heel, and my dad was like, "This guy's gonna be a star." And he thought he was gonna be a heel. He was teaming with Rico, like
Yeah,
the
Constantino.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And my dad thought both of them. He thought the world of both of them. But I guess just John Cena just took off. But he was a great heel. I like everyone says he should switch heel, but he should have actually switched heel a long time ago because he was pretty damn good at the Danny Davis Arena back in the
Mm-hmm.
day.
Oh, I'm in LA. So I
Yeah.
saw
Oh, way
UPW.
before.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
UPW, like Chris Daniels. And, Chris Daniels had already made, like, the ECWA Super 8. I think he won that tournament up to that point. You saw him on, like, Shotgun Saturday Night. So
Hmm.
I knew of Chris Daniels, but, like, I really got to know Chris Daniels in UPW. Samoa Joe, right?
Wasn't Great Khali there too for a little bit? No.
Oh, he was in APW. That was
Okay.
the All Pro Wrestling. Roland Alexander from
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where Kali trained, where he actually shoot kills the guy.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine in the Carolinas, Seymour Snot, was apparently there
Yeah,
in the ring that time. Uh, and yeah, he told me the story one time. Yeah, it was pretty sad. He was just like, "Well, we knew the guy was winded. We told him to sit down. We started doing our drills. And next thing we know, like we looked over, and it's like, God damn,
yeah. It's
fuck."
it, and that's like we talk about what we like and we don't like about pro wrestling, MMA, right? I mean, we've had three MMA fighters within a week get arrested for domestic violence. Not a great
Hmm.
look, right? Substance issues plague both sports. The same thing with boxing, and you know, especially with like what happened with Chris Benoit. I think that's like the worst case scenario of it all going wrong. And I'm not saying that it was substance abuse or what have you, but here's what we do know, right? That when Michael Benoit, Chris's dad, donates Chris's brain to, Chris Nowinski's fucking Sports Legacy Institute, right?
Hmm.
They study the brain. And Nowinski's career fucking ended because of concussions. It, Benoit had the brain of a 70-year-old Alzheimer's woman. It changed his fucking gender, right? And similar things were kind of in like the brain of Junior Seau, right? Who, football great, right? Shoots himself in the chest because and you hear that with, you know, uh, football players, from the 70s,
Hmm.
80s, and even now the 90s. And I want to say that Junior Seau from the 90s, like the most recent kind of guys that succumb to that shoot themselves in the chest and the brain. They know something's wrong and can do fuck all about it. Right? And that's kind of why I do this, right? I want to make sure that if you're getting to the UFC or Bellator or WWE or whatever the fuck, if you can do 90 seconds promo at a show or an hour long, maybe an hour plus podcast, whatever, when the lights are on you, that you're going to make yourself undeniable.
Hmm.
Undeniable, where people are going to go, whether you're in the company or not out of the company, they want to see more of you. And I mean, it could be an entertainment deal, right? And you get roles in acting or whatever, or you become a realtor, or you become an accountant, or something, right? And they want to buy houses from the guy or the girl that they saw on TV, right? The champ, buy a car, right? It could manifest itself in many ways, but you have. I look at Steve Austin talks about it. You got a 5 to 7 year window of making it, and that's
Hmm.
it. And if you got any more than that, you're on borrowed time, right? So what can
Yeah.
we do in that 5 to 7 year window to make fucking Conor McGregor talk about 5 to 7 years, right? The beginning of his 5 to 7 years, he's a plumber's apprentice living on welfare in Ireland with, with his living girlfriend, Dee Devlin, right? But working for his dad. His dad fucking fires him because he knows his heart isn't in it. And look, I mean, 7 years later, he is the highest paid. Fuck Brock, fuck Ronda, whatever. He is the biggest box office star that not just the UFC has, but MMA has as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it transcends the sport. Getting fights at the red carpet and stuff like that. A lot of MMA fighters aren't invited to the red carpet to
Mm-hmm.
show their ass. So here, that just kind of shows like the level he's at. And 5 to 7 years, I hate to disagree with Steve Austin, but I think it's like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you look at like Hangman Page, he was in the Indies in the Carolinas for over 5 to 7 years. You can say the same with Cameron Grimes, Trevor Lee, or oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah,
Uh,
Trevor Lee, Cameron
yeah, Trevor
Grimes,
Lee.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He started when he was 14 years old, and he didn't make it till he was like 25 in the WWE. So that's 11 years. So I think that rule needs to be as time gets longer, if you will. I think the 5 to 7 rule needs to be a 10 to 15 year rule now, because it just takes that much longer for you to get discovered. There's that much more people on Earth, and times are hard, man.
I just found out that Adam Cole is only 32.
Yeah, he's been in it for a while. I mean, he
For,
he shot up to the top.
yeah, I thought Cole was at least maybe. I'm 36. I thought he was just as long as he's been in the game and also been to me top guy. He's been
Mhm.
a top guy everywhere. New Japan. If he had stayed in New Japan, they would have stuck the strap on him. And they'll talk about, oh, he's not a Japanese talent. Look at what they do with Omega later, right? You
Oh yeah,
swear that Adam Cole couldn't have facilitated that if he had stayed in. Same thing with Cody, right? Adam Cole kind of wrote that book, right? Ring
yeah.
of Honor, like this. He's a phenomenal talent. He's a phenomenal talker. I mean, if you check out Renee Young's or Renee Paquette's oral sessions, right when he was on there, saying he still has a great relationship with both, Hunter and Sean, right?
Oh yeah.
Not everybody can say that, and especially working for another company, that those two were cheering him on and understood why he didn't want to sign.
In the rumor that they were gonna make him a manager too when they brought him up, they're gonna Leo rush him, uh, which is ridiculous. I mean, if you look at it, they have the cruiserweight title. They have the title to the like one of the most prestigious like light heavyweight championships in the world, the WCW lineage. Now it's on 205 Live. They made a whole show of it
Mm-hmm.
to and they buried the whole roster on that show
Mm-hmm.
when they could have just brought that up. They got Tozawa, they got Drew Gulak. I mean, Adam Cole could have been like right there with it.
Mm-hmm.
And after, if you're a smaller guy, people will see that at first. But look at Rey Mysterio, look at Gregory Helms to an extent. You can you know come out first with that initial shock, like, oh, he's small. Get over with the other smaller guys, and then shoot to the top. I mean, people were saying Sean and Brett were small at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and I mean,
They're
they're
six
the
one,
goats.
6'2", respectively.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I
That's
don't
one thing.
know.
I
Okay.
think Sean said something like that. He was like always used to being like the bigger guy playing football and everything, and then when he came to wrestling, like, well, you're a smaller guy, and he was like, what? And now, yeah,
It's a weird one, and like you said, the Leah Rush stuff. No, you're absolutely right. But you remember Johnny Polo back in the 90s?
yeah, Raven, yeah,
So again, 8 gimmicks, and they just fucking interchange it. How you could go $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase,
hmm,
JBL, Alberto Del Rio, same fucking gimmick, and then they brought
yeah,
it back with Cameron Grimes, and no, not they do it with two wrestlers, same gimmick, two wrestlers, Cameron Grimes and a fucking LA Knight, China Ricker. Again, you mentioned, Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes is one of the best workers that you've seen and shit like that. And look
hmm,
how long it took, 14 to now. This is a guy who is a legit millionaire, not from wrestling,
yeah,
right?
for sure, yeah. That
And
that's a shoot
that's
gimmick.
yeah, and that's all they got from
I think
Sean
that's the only
Ricker.
thing.
Much like, oh, good.
I would say I think that was the only thing that probably impressed those old guys in the back was like, oh, you have lots of money. Oh shit, like like, oh, we got to talk about that rather than like, oh, I'm actually like a master of my craft. I started at such a young age. I can do pretty much any
Mm-hmm.
style that I taught myself. They're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's kind of boring. We've heard that before, but you got rich. Oh shit, and, that's probably the only thing that's stuck in those
Mm-hmm.
old guys' heads, probably, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, right? Sean Ricker is much like Sean Spears before him, right? This is like his second or third
Mhm.
run with the company, right? And this is and he's a fucking phenomenal talent, phenomenal talker. Who talked better in today's wrestling better than Sean Ricker, L.A. Knight? Like, and even that gimmick, L.A. Knight, is perfect for him. But he's essentially doing fucking Eli Drake, right? This
Oh
is
yeah.
you know, and he's. But again, they had him before,
Hmm.
right? Didn't do
Yeah.
fuck all with him and released him.
I mean, they brought him up now, and I think he's gonna get lost in the shuffle. Like, say what you will about Cross and Keith Lee, but at least they were the sole new NXT talent. Hit Row, LA Knight, Rich Holland. At least two out of three of those acts are gonna get lost in the shuffle because they only push one guy at one time. Uh, and I see a lot in Hit Row, but I think they got called up way too early. I think they could have been like
Are they
the
called up?
new. Yeah, they're on SmackDown. All the whole
Oh,
roster, the
oh
whole
no,
faction.
no.
And I think that they could have been like the new undisputed era for NXT, that new NXT. But now they're, I don't know, maybe they're gonna be too cool. I don't know what they're gonna be.
They're gonna be fucking paired up or doing. They're gonna be doing jobs for. I can't even remember the names because I want to call them Crime Time, but the guy that's
Those
married
Street
to.
Profits.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, Men on a Mission, Crime Time. Who else? There's some other ones, right? But like, and
Oh
then
yeah.
now you got Street Profits. So I say that's when you're gonna know where Vince's head is at. If Hit Row goes over on Street Profits, or Street Profits are the kind of 10-year tag team and the whatever. And the 10-year tag team, that's just like this is the same company that calls Alicia Fox a legend.
Yeah, yeah. I think the time is now with Montez Ford. I mean, Montez Ford just had, I don't know if you saw, but he had a great match on SmackDown with Roman Reigns, and he was super over. He's obviously a little bit more athletic than um,
Dawkins.
Dawkins. And I think it's you got to pick a Genetti now, and I think Dawkins is that Genetti. I think you need to, push. The draft was the perfect time to split them,
Right.
and they didn't, and that kind of shows that they're probably never going to pull the trigger on Ford, which is unfortunate. He's a
No,
fellow runner too, a track star.
Fortis?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I mean Dawkins is like a fucking straight up shoot wrestler. Like
Oh, really?
he's a fucking badass like collegiate wrestler and what have you, I believe. And that's what they got is like ball shorts and the weird. Like I like the fucking stirring and whatever because
Yeah.
look at what was it Red Velvet? She's using it too, right?
Mhm.
Like in to quote the bare naked ladies, right? It's all been done before, right? Well, it's all been done, but I've never seen that mannerism. I've never seen the two headbands when he rocked it. He's probably got only one now, but it was just different, right? But yeah, no, 100%. But even Jesus Christ, the Hit Row, the one big guy, right? Like
Oh,
I was done on a Hit Row because they got the fucking annoying guy from WWE's Most Wanted Treasures and put him as the fucking heavy, and I was just like, I'm good. I couldn't stand him
Top
on
Dollar.
fucking. Yeah, I couldn't stand him on, like here you are with like fucking Jake the Snake Roberts, and you act like a fucking like, oh, I gotta call fucking triple. I gotta call the boss, bitch. What is this fucking show about? Yeah, of course he's gonna greenlight it. What the? Ah, ah, ah.
Yeah, I didn't see that show, so I guess fortunately enough, Top Dollar is still saved in my book.
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%.
but
But I
yeah, I
paid
think
for it on Amazon because I don't have A&E. I paid $20. I wanted that shit back. But that's WWE. Anything I spent on WWE. The last purchase that I made on WWE.com was actually a. I mean, it's Bray Wyatt inspired, but it's Vince McMahon with devil horns. This is good shit.
I I'm just worried about Swerve Scott, Isaiah Swerve Scott. Like he was the one guy that I think you could have brought up, and you could have probably kept those other three as a faction in NXT. But he's been signed now for like 3 4 years. Been on 205 Live, been on NXT, current North American champion. I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but the only way they could bring him up is to pair him with three green talents and bring him up to SmackDown. It's a bummer.
But what's weird, right? Where like they bring Hit Row together, right?
Hmm.
But they didn't do that shit with Sanity.
Yeah, It's true.
I don't understand any of it. And instead of like, that somebody asked me, they're like, if you don't like it, don't watch. I was like, okay, cool. And I haven't. This is the first time since the Benoit, you know, murder suicide, tragedy, right?
Hmm.
This is the first time I've not watched WWE product religiously, right? And it got. I mean, first it was like the 3 hour Raws. Then I jumped to the Hulu version, 90 minutes, and I was just like, "There's other shit on. There's Hangman. How are you gonna fucking do 90 minutes of shit programming when you got Hangman's Tale on the same fucking streaming network? You got fucking Impractical Jokers and fucking It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and you want
Oh
to do
yeah.
a shit right now? Talk about Hulu. Fucking Reservation Dogs. That is an awesome show. All
Okay.
indigenous fucking talents living in and the plight of being on a reservation in Oklahoma. Like it's fucking phenomenal. So how the fuck am I gonna watch 90 minutes? No, no, I'm not. And then I got to the 3 minute YouTube, right? Like whatever, 50 minutes after it happened, and even those got to be too long. And I was
Yeah.
just like,
I mean, whoever is saying not watch, I mean, a lot of people are taking that advice. And I mean, you got AEW, not even AEW now. MLW just premiered on Vice, and I think more people are on the internet now. So that's the success of GCW. Like I've seen a
mm-hmm.
lot of people recently say things like GCW needs to have a TV deal, and I guess I'm old enough to remember ECW on TNN, and I think that's the worst thing GCW could
Yes,
do. You want to
thousand
be
percent.
you want to be that underground thing, and to be that underground thing you got to slam people through glass and have death matches, and you're not going to be able to do that on TV. There's no HBO is not going to take that. It's too low brow, and
Mm-hmm.
everywhere else is not going to risk having someone be injured like that. So you got to keep it on the internet. More people are watching. More people are on the internet than on the TV. Like Raw is still number one on Monday nights, and they're hitting 1.8, and they've lost half of their audience, and they're still number one. That says that, I mean, like Triple H says, TV is just going down.
Yeah, but that's coming from him. I don't believe it one iota, right? Because they're like,
Yeah,
oh, pay per view's dead. Didn't they just have Fury Wilder and do fucking gangbusters on pay per view?
that
Right?
was, you talk about big fight feel. That was bigger fight feel than any WrestleMania I can remember. And I've been to two of them, and I probably had a better time watching that main event than sitting in the nosebleeds.
Yeah, yeah, no, and but that's the thing, and um, that's why when people are so dismissive on pro wrestling, I'm all like, the fuck are you talking about, right? A young Cassius Clay was watching Gorgeous George and Freddie Blassie in Kentucky, right?
Mhm.
Mike Tyson was watching Bruno Sammartino and Pedro Morales in, fucking New York, right? Floyd Mayweather was actually in a fucking Mania. I fucking loathe Richard Sherman in the NFL when he was in the Seahawks, fucking talking shit about the Niners. And I don't have a dog in the hunt. I was just born in San Francisco, and
Yeah,
had two back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Joe Montana and Steve Young, right? And Jerry Rice, Jesse Sapolu, Ronnie Lott, and whatever. So, and then even Frank Gore and obviously like Kaepernick, he had his thing. Alex Smith, right? Like that was it. And I get a sense of pride every time, you know, the Niner, just seeing that fucking uniform, I get a sense of pride.
yeah.
Could I name a fucking person on that fucking roster? Couldn't worth it. Couldn't. Absolutely
Hmm.
could not. But that's the thing. And when I buy my Maddens, I fucking Google who are the top players in the NFL, and I fucking extend the fucking salary cap so I can add them as Niners.
There you go. I like your style.
Just saying. Yeah, but it's just, you know, everybody. I mean, shit. The way that I found out that Donald J. Trump was the 45th president of the United States of America was like I was homesick that day. I had a fucking piercing fucking migraine, right? But I was like, I'm gonna do my civic duty, and vote. I actually jumped on a bus, voted, and then took an Uber back home. I didn't even have a car, right? So I went to sleep, and I was like, and everybody was just like super divisive, like the precursor to where we're living in now, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and then I was like, oh, what happened on Raw, right? Because it was a Monday night,
Hmm.
and looked at as I've done since I was in high school and got internet connection. Shout out to Net Zero and their fucking CompUSA 15-minute discs because that's how I got my internet back in the day. But it was it was Roger.com, and they were like, WWE Hall of Famer is the 45th president of the United States, and I was like, oh shit, Jesse Ventura made a run in, fuck yeah, and then I was like, oh no. But
Yeah.
also, but also, the first election that this guy voted in as an 18-year-old kid coming out of high school was we had the latest like recall effort that actually worked. Not this time because I don't know. I love this state, but I also like if people didn't like it, I'm not mad at you. The taxes are high, the prices are high, like and the people are high. So you know. But with that all being said, I voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because the Gray Davis had fucked up, and Arnold won. And it's so weird because there was a time that I was working in Brentwood. Where O.J. Simpson and that whole thing happened, and that guy would be. I was working at a coffee shop, and that guy would be the first person there with his security detail, right? This is a year after I voted him in, right? With his security detail, and he would get like these French cream donuts, which are regular donuts just chock full of French cream, right?
Hmm.
Then a fucking craft full of like just the blackest coffee that you could get. And he goes to Santa Monica, right? He goes to Santa Monica Airport, the regional airport, about 50 minutes away, and he goes to Sacramento on his own dime. Then he would be our last customer, taking a French tart to his then wife, Maria Shriver, and the kids. That, again, all of it on his own dime. So,
Damn.
when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it's bad. But also, Arnold is a fucking WWE Hall of Famer, too.
That's true. That's true.
Man, that's what I'm saying. It's like when you get wrestling, you can understand everything. You can understand, like, of course, like we were just talking about Thunderbolt Patterson and Bearcat Wright, but we wouldn't even know who the fuck they were if not for Sputnik Monroe, an Anglo gentleman who was the top draw everywhere he went, and it was like, no, we're no, there's no balcony bullshit, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's integrated, or I'm not
Hmm.
wrestling. And you're booking a Bearcat Wright, a fucking Sailor Ott Thomas, like they're those are my heavies, right? If the Gold Dust Trio, right, with Ed Strangler Lewis, you got to fight the three guys to get to the champ. Well, all of my guys are probably three of the biggest, African American fucking talent that we got. So let's do that. Or otherwise, I'm not working. I'm not working your town ever.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, like how like people look at wrestling, pro wrestling, and they think it's like just lowbrow, like redneck shit, whatever. But if you look at the lineage of it, a lot of things were first in wrestling, and then if you watch it, a lot of you can kind of see parallels and metaphors in bullshit, in politics, and everything like
Yes.
that. Like so it's like yes, it's dudes in underwear fake fighting, but if you keep looking deeper and deeper, you'll be able to like figure out a lot of things. And I think it's a lot harder to bullshit a wrestling fan than I think it is bullshit the common person, in
Yeah.
my opinion, maybe in my experience.
I know. It's because everything is a gimmick. We
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
everything is a gimmick. We know, like you could, again, wrestling derived from the carnival circuit of the night, turn of the century into the 30s and 40s and what have you, and it's just like they're carnies. I mean, the kayfabe, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is, right? And no, like when you go to the circus, they're just trying to
Yeah.
like. I remember going to like a circus, a regional circus with my wife and kids, and my at the time I think he was maybe about 2 years old, my youngest, right? And they were like, "Oh, everybody come get balloons," right? And he comes back tearing. It's like, it's it's $2, right?
Of
For
course.
fucking right. It's just fucking gimmicks, man. Like we go to any sporting event, any music event. Again, people are selling their gimmicks. That's all.
Mm.
That's all it is. And the gimmick could be, a T-shirt, a pen, a fucking jersey, a fucking the beer. The fact that you could, on the way to the fucking show, buy what, like a tall boy for like $2.50, right?
Oh yeah.
And then $8 at the fucking
8.
venue.
I went to Raw a few weeks ago. It was 15 for a beer.
Oh, so this right here is when I saw Slash and Miles Kennedy at the Hollywood
Hmm.
Palladium, right? So this is a bootleg shirt, 100%. Because the fucking regular T-shirts in there, this is the Palladium. Maybe 1,500 people, tops, you can fit in this place, right? GCW could run there,
Yeah, yeah.
theoretically, right? 75 fucking dollars for a T-shirt.
Damn, that's too much.
$15 for a beer, 35, and then California State Time, $45 for a fucking mixed drink that had more sugar than a fucking diabetes infested. Yeah,
Fuck.
but we're in the
Damn.
heart of Hollywood, like right across
Yeah,
the
yeah.
street from Nickelodeon Studio, where they had Keenan and Kel and all that and whatever, like iCarly and all that shit. This is the place where Slash. It's crazy. So like the week before, Lenny Kravitz played there, right? So Lenny
Oh, cool.
Kravitz and Slash. How many times that as Hollywood kids, right? If you guys know, Roxy Roker was Lenny Kravitz's mom. She was the African American lady on the Jeffersons, right? And then Slash's mom was a seamstress and mistress to like David Bowie and Alex Cooper and all
Oh,
that
really? I
shit.
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So those two grew up in Hollywood, right? So you're seeing two sons of Hollywood in the heart of Hollywood at a venue that they fucking did, and the tickets were only. Oh, okay. Slash and Lenny Kravitz. If I told you 1,500 seat arena or theater, right? How much would you think that the tickets were?
I'm thinking 100, maybe 50 to 100.
Okay, so I will also say a little bit of asterisk that I left off. This was Lenny's first show in America in at least 4 years. He had moved to France and Brazil respectively, and
Okay.
just played shows internationally. And then also, Slash was maybe 9 months into the reunion stadium tours
Oh yeah.
of
So
Guns N'
you
Roses. So
it's jumping up to like 200, maybe 250, 300.
Jacob Grondy, $30 per.
Oh shit. Okay. Damn. I thought.
And you know why? So, the Palladium, and it's a historic venue, Nine Inch Nails, Pantera, Ramones, you could have a field day of people, but also like, Pat Boone and Little Richard and what have you. And where it was constructed for was in the 50s, they used to have the American bands, those dance shows that come in at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon that went all around the country with kids dancing and sock hopping and shit like that. And that's what it was
Yeah.
made for. So you have a balcony, and then you have the ballroom floor, theoretically, right? And the stage where the big band would play, right? So now it's a fucking music venue, and it has been since the 50s, right? So yeah, those, you know, $3, $4, $5,000, tickets. Those are the balcony where people could play fucking Caesar, right? But general admin, which was the floor,
Yeah.
$30.
Hey, they just wanted you in the building so they could sell you that $75 T-shirt.
Yeah, no shit. It's a gimmick, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I went to the fucker with the fucking duffel bag and paid 2 for 15.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bro. Kind of quick hits. What is your? Do you have past, present, or future favorite wrestlers, Don't have to
Oh,
go in order or whatever.
yeah. I can tell you my five favorite wrestlers all time. Sting, Kurt Angle, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. Uh, I I don't know. I'm a stinger, a little stinger. I was at Fall Brawl '96 when the NWO Sting. I believed in the WCW Sting, and he came out. He turned his back on the Horseman, who didn't
Mm.
like Sting anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm that's pretty much my fandom is rooted in Sting, the anti-hero, which is probably what led to me liking CM Punk as much when I got a little older. And then also I just like solid work rate. Like I was, shown Ricky Steamboat versus Steve Austin at a young age. So like I've always kind of a, attached good wrestling to good work rate.
Hmm.
So that's when Angle, Samojo, and AJ kind of come in there too. Honorable mention to Shane Helms too. Another,
Oh yes, the
yeah,
vertebraker. The
yeah.
vertebraker. Fuck.
I
Like
was Shane Helms for Halloween. I was the Hurricane for Halloween when I was like 11 years old.
that's why you're good. That's why you're a badass now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite? I know you've been to two, but do you have a favorite mania?
My favorite Mania is either 19 or 30. Um,
Okay.
that's tied. I really liked Brock versus Angle. I watched that match like two or three times a year. It's interesting, like sometimes like mess ups, imperfections can kind of like add
Mm-hmm.
just like so much to the homage, or not the homage, but like the pageantry of a match and the history, the historical significance of a match. And I think that's like, Brock even going for a shooting star press
Yes.
is kind of lost in history. They say, oh, he messed up a shooting star, but like a guy that's you were talking about Jordan Oliver doing flippy shit, Brock Lesnar attempting flippy shit was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then the show long storyline with Daniel Bryan and all the things that had to happen. Like CM Punk had to quit, Triple H put him over, and then Randy Orton and Batista put him over. Uh, that's just amazing. And I've never seen a crowd, even on TV, get that hype for something. I mean, people mention Stone Cold, people mention Bret Hart, but I think you have to only Stone Cold Steve Austin because he at 17 was 80,000 strong cheering that hard for one person.
Mm-hmm. And they're
Well, even
intact.
17,
Yeah.
Stone
In
Cold
Seattle.
flipped.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I mean that was just amazing to see someone like work rate in this current WrestleMania era uh, do well. So yeah, I would say 19 and 30. People get
yeah.
mad at me online. They say 17 is the one, but 17 is number three in my book.
No, and but so for it's all subjective. That's why I don't like the fucking greatest of all time. First off, that's just one. That's just one.
Mhm.
You can't
Mhm.
every time you get a great match, you're greatest of all time, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Ilya and Walter, both matches are great, right? I will put that up against the Brett and Stone Cold Iron Man match, the emotion of Shawn and Flair, like Flair's more theoretical retirement.
Mhm.
Like you can put those whatever, but like you can't just go greatest of all time, greatest of all time. Like it drives me insane. It's like it's one, and that one is subjective because if I ask you 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now, 20 years from now, you'll probably have a different answer than you have
Oh yeah.
today. So it's all subjective. So that's why I don't even like whatever. Like and even like the top tens or whatever. Like it's your favorite. It's like yours. Like who
Oh yeah.
affected you the most? Which, as a little singer, what do you think about AEW Sting?
I like it a lot. I mean, if like CM Punk said, if I was a little kid now, Darby Allin would be my favorite wrestler. Like I would be playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I would be turning it off to watch Darby Allin on Dynamite, and he's just kind of that combination of all the things I liked when I was a kid. Um, so yeah, I kind of like him from that perspective. I like to see kids like Darby Allin. I
Mm-hmm.
think Darby Allin can go. I respect the hell out of Darby Allin. I, I've been seeing him. I saw him wrestle Jason Kincaid at like
Wow.
11:30 a.m. at WrestleCade. That was the first time I saw Darby Allin
Wow.
wrestle, and people didn't like him. You know, he's like a little emo kid. All the rednecks were booing him, but to see him kind of come up from that, so yeah, I love Sting in AEW. The mentor role, I think that's
Mm,
perfect for him, and I think he plays that mentor role a lot better than Christian Cage, Matt Hardy, a lot of the other people they've kind of pinned with that mentor
right.
role. So I think he does it better even with his contemporaries on the same promotion.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like everybody, and obviously the comparisons get made, right? With Impact was signing a lot of former, WWE talents and what have you. Uh, Now AEW, right? But
Hmm.
there's a difference, right, between WCW and those promotions that I just mentioned, right? You had the inmates running the asylum, and not to say
Yeah,
they don't here, because obviously the Bucks, Omega, and Cody are in executive positions and what have you, but these inmates, if you're going to use that analogy, are different. Look at the smiles on all of the talent chases. We're
hmm,
going Vicky Guerrero, Nyla Rose, Chris Statlander, uh, even you get fucking what's his name, Orange Cassidy to break, right? Like, and
yeah,
he was unbreakable in terms of that gimmick, right? The Lucha brothers, like the Abrahantes guy, like everybody, CM Punk, Danielson, everybody's happy to be there. They're
yeah,
legitimate, happy to be there. The fans that are there, fucking Rosario Dawson, one of my favorite actresses. That she's the fucking love interest in Clerks too.
yeah.
By God, you know. And then fucking Val and fucking Josie and the Pussycats. Y'all want to get on some woke shit? Watch Josie and the Pussycats. That shit is so far ahead of its time, and they put like Illuminati, like really fucking crazy ass shit in a fucking live action version of a what Harvey Toon's fucking cartoon. Like crazy
All
shit,
right,
dude.
I'll have to dive back.
Go go watch Josie and the Pussycat. Come back to me. And I'm not saying it's They Live, but
Yeah, yeah, but it's They Live.
it definitely had a bigger production and bigger names attached to it than Piper in the 80s when They Live came out. It's grown with over time, right? As a cult classic. And they had a way bigger budget in Josie and the Pussycats, but it's the same common thread, and I think you'll dig it.
Okay.
Yeah, I turn everybody, and they're like, "Yo," because again, all the fucking bubblegum pop of the late '90s, early 2000s, and whatever, and this hits. I mean, Carson Daly's girlfriend, Tara Reid, is one of the fucking girls, and
Yeah.
Rachel Lee Cook is Josie from She's All That, or was it? Yeah, I think it's she's all that. The proverbial, the ugly duckling
Yeah.
turned pretty swan and everything like that. Yeah, so you can't get any more like late '90s, early 2000s than those three: Rachel Lee Cook, fucking Rosario Dawson, and Tara Reid as the principal people. But it is great. And then before we go,
Okay.
in terms of what your wrestling tastes are now, like what are you watching? Because I love when people I like to turn people on to good shit, but I also like when other people what you guys are watching, so I can kind of be abreast of whatever the fuck is going on. So,
Yeah.
Jacob Ronde, what are you watching?
I mean, I watch the G1. I watch every single match every year. It becomes like a bit of a chore, but I guess that's part of the fun of it. Is kind of like maybe like a marathon kind of style where you're just pushing through it. You do see a little bit of bad wrestling, but I do think arguably the best match all year happens in the G1, and you kind of have to watch all of them to see which
Mm-hmm.
one. It's like the beauty. It's like the Easter egg. So I watched the G1, and I've been a big fan of MLW. So now that they're jumping on Fight, uh, definitely check that out. And let's see what else. The other people, I'm a big fan of GCW. Now I'm kind of getting on that hype train. So I think that's kind of that's the ECW of today. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's already set. It's the '90s all over again. WWE exists still. AEW is WCW. GCW is ECW. Especially now. Like I don't know if you saw the latest show, but the Briscoes Thunder Rosa both showed up. Minoru Suzuki wrestled,
Yeah,
and you still have Matt Cardona, John Moxley there. So
yeah.
they have the luminaries of the mainstream, but they also got guys like Mance Warner, who I think is amazing. Jordan Oliver, who I think if he hits the gym, he's going to be the next Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch GCW. That's your like that's your way to look into the pulse of what's going to happen the next 5 years. PWG was this in 2014, but in 2021, GCW
GC.
is what to watch.
No, 1,000%. And what I was thinking about the AEW, right? The like, again, the inmates. It's a different set. It's not the fucking favorable nations clause that Hall and Nash had, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm sure the money. They would probably be making more money in the WWE in the
Mhm.
instance of Danielson for sure, right? But you're working like one day a week, so that
Mhm.
money, is whatever, and they're taping like a shit ton of shows. You might wrestle one or two times, but that's nothing compared to the fucking shit you worked for in the evil empire, right? And
Yeah.
again, you're talking about GCW, and I think your assessment was absolutely right. I friends with Barnett, and the only other fucking GCW show was Bloodsport, which they have one coming up in LA in about 10 days, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, but have a lot of friends wrestling on it. Bunch of people from it have been on the podcast and everything.
Is
Uh,
Karen Tran wrestling for that? Do you know her?
yes, KZT,
Yeah, yeah.
Kaz.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I'm a big fan of her.
she's great.
Yeah.
I mean, she's great, and also, she's a black belt in jujitsu, legitimate,
Hmm.
right? She got it during the pandemic, and a lot of the shit, like the graphics and stuff that you see for Bellator or AE, I think maybe AEW, but I'm not too sure. Maybe early days of AEW, but definitely NWA Power.
Yeah, for
That
sure,
that
for sure.
that is her.
Yeah.
She's working all the graphics and shit like that. That is her creation. So she, and then puts on these amazing fucking matches, man. Like she, I mean, she's an Asian Australian coming here
Yeah.
and fucking like there's nothing that she got to do. Yeah, she's great. But going back to like the GCW, up in the air, like here in LA. That was my first GCW show being, in attendance, right? And you had like again, like the fucking spot fest of a 3-on-3 tag trio stack, right? A three-way trio stack, right? Then you had Jordan Oliver and Alex Zane, right? Then you had the what is it? He's a perpetual GCW guy. Ninja something, Ninja Mac.
Ninja Mac, yeah.
Yeah, who I was very dismissive on until I saw the pay per view where Moxley won the title, the
Oh,
GCW
that
World
ladder
Title.
spot.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
was just like, and Ninja Mac got one of the biggest bumps of the fucking night, and I was like, yes, that's what he fucking looks like me. Damn it, I look like Ninja Mac, and that could have been me under the hood, but I couldn't do what Ninja Mac does. Ninja Mac is fucking awesome, and then I think they had like another flippy shit match or whatever. Oh
Is
no, they well good.
There was that guy, I forget his last name, but Nick, like, he's from California. He's like 17 years old. He's been popping up on the GCW
Yeah,
shows.
yeah, yeah. Fuck. Is it Star
N-
Child Star
I love
some?
Starboard Charlie, but
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
another
that.
guy now.
Yeah,
And he reminds me a lot of Shane Helms, the way he wrestles in WCW.
that guy was there too because
Okay.
because it was a tag match. Starboy Charlie. That was the Ninja Mac match. Like
Oh,
that,
cool,
they were
cool.
all thrown together, and it was amazing. Just spot fest, spot fest. Like we couldn't catch our breath. The who's and the ahs that they just fucking dropped off of shit. It's just amazing. Then Mance Warner, and then the fucking Seth Rollins, the redneck Seth Rollins guy, who's I don't know.
Oh,
A part. They're
Matthew Justice?
yes,
Yeah.
that's him. Yeah, Justice, right? And I can't even remember who they were wrestling or whatever, but it was a phenomenal match. And I kind of, Mance Warner, A guy like me could be scared of somebody like him. Same thing with Braun Strowman. I'm like, I don't want to be in the woods with those motherfuckers because maybe I don't make it out alive, right? But he is phenomenal. Like he's great. Like his pictures and everything don't do his justice. He is great, and if you see him right, and to see him live is just, it's a different fucking thing, right? And then they had the comedy match, like in Ron Funches versus Tony Deppen, right? And Paul Shear, right, another comedian, makes a heel turn on Funches and sides with Tony Deppen. Then fucking Alley Cat fucking comes out, and my favorite wrestler right now that's not signed to any major company, Danhausen.
Oh yeah,
Danhausen makes
great.
a yes. Again, I've seen wrestling. I mean, I've watched it since I was two, as my mom says, right? But I love fucking Luthez. I like, he's on my top five of all time. Like, I'm AWA mark. Like, nobody fucking throws a drop kick like Vern Gagne. Like, if you want a high spot, that's a fucking high spot. Nick Pacquinko. I'm not saying anything about Buddy Rogers or Ric Flair, but he's probably one of the greatest to do the gimmick because if Flair in that Nature Going gimmick, he's the Wolf of Wall Street, 80s billionaire. Well, Nick Bockwinkel is the motherfucker that is on Lifestyles and the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach, Champagne Wishes and Caviar Dreams, right? Like he looks like Beverly Hills, and he grew up in fucking Texas, right? It was his dad's promotion that Iron Mike DiBiase, Ted DiBiase's, adopted father, the person he knew as his father, ended up passing away at. Had the heart attack. Harley Race was the first one to the ring to kind of whatever to catch Mike, but it was too late and what have you. But yeah, that's to me. I'm a huge AWA mark, right? And you wouldn't think Danhausen would be my guy.
Yeah,
Danhausen is my fucking guy, dude. Danhausen is a brilliant. I want more teeth, more money, more evil. Like he's
yeah, he's
phenomenal.
great.
Yeah.
He was
That,
shown New York Comic Con with Orange Cassidy. He dressed up like Orange Cassidy, got a picture with him. Now people are clamoring for that match.
yes, please. Like we
Yeah,
need that, right? And again, the same thing with Orange Cassidy, right? Like he might have been a fire ant in Chikara, right? Like that
yeah,
dude is about the same age as me, right? People say like, oh, he's a young. I don't know. He's like, he'll be 40 in 4 years, right? And like he's different. Like I didn't get
yeah.
him at first, but I saw him live at a bar wrestling, and I was like, oh, he was wrestling fucking Scott Steiner, Big Papa
Damn.
Pump. This is
Yeah,
like right before the pandemic, and I was like, if Steiner, one of the biggest badasses there has ever been in wrestling, if MMA had started, the UFC had started like 10 years before it, and there was money in it, he'd be the guy, right? So
yeah.
if Steiner's fucking doing it, okay, I can get it. I can get it. And he true to the crew, in the words of Bruiser Bedlam, his tattoo, true to the
Yeah.
crew. Fuck yeah, man. I get it, man. So
I
speaking of things, oh, good.
I was thinking to keep talking about Orange Cassidy. A lot of people like you see like a lot of old school like old heads really don't like him. But a compliment that I see given to Jerry Lawler, Larry Zbysko a lot is that they get so much out of so little. And I think Orange Cassidy is the epitome of getting a lot out of a little. And for a lot of these old school wrestling fans, if they look at it that way, look at an Orange Cassidy match like a Jerry Lawler match, they would
Yes.
appreciate it way more.
No, 1,000%. It was said about Honky Tonk Man, right? Like, oh, somebody like, we're doing this. It's like, I haven't taken a bump since 1994. No. How about you chase me around the ring? I'll chase you around the ring. Whatever. Somebody slips on a banana peel. 1, 2, 3, finished. And that's a 20-minute match, and it's over like Rover. You know,
Yeah, totally.
and and that's you said a lot out of a little, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the thing. If you like, I saw, I think the bar wrestling after that, and I know because of the Joey Ryan thing, that it's not
Yeah.
cool to say, but it was a thing for a time. I also know
Those
people
shows
that,
looked a lot of fun. I mean, I was watching
yeah,
them. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
yeah,
No one knew.
they were a lot of fun, but also a lot of people got hurt like that. That's not fun. But I'm not going to pretend that it didn't exist, because also if you pretend it doesn't exist, then also the things that were done to the victims
Will
didn't
happen again.
exist either. And I'm not going to victim shame or blame. Like, that is some bad shit that happened to them. I've heard horrible fucking stories by some pretty reputable people. So, I mean, people that I hold dear, not even reputable people, like people, they are reputable, but like people that I love and whatever. Some of my sisters in the fucking business, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, you know. Um,
Okay, fuck.
but yeah, but you know, it did happen, right? But Rock and Roll Express, man, that was like the last like pro wrestling thing that I did before the pandemic, dude. And I fucking plopped that fucking money down. My wife was like, "What the fuck is this charge?" I was like, "No, fucking Rock and Roll Express. I know you don't
Hell yeah.
understand, but to see them live, I just have to." And I bought the fucking T-shirt. I did the whole thing. I was marking out, and people were like, "Woods, like you're a person. Like, why don't you tell them who you are?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm a fucking fan, dude. Fuck that." Ricky and Robert, fucking Hoot and the other one, the legendary, fucking. We love you so much. Here's a picture. Sign that
Yeah.
some bitch and sell it as a gimmick.
Oh yeah.
Fucking rocking Ricky and Robert, man. Shit, yeah, man. So I was just like, yeah, I'm a fucking fan, dude. Like, and again, I'm a fucking interview podcaster guy. I haven't done a monicum of what fucking Ricky and Robert have done. Like,
Yeah.
so there's no comparison. I'm Mark. If they want to treat me like a Mark and sell me gimmicks all night, I'm paying. You got Venmo? You got fucking
Yeah.
PayPal? Cool. All
For
right.
real, for real.
Yeah,
I know what
bro.
you mean.
So obviously, Jacob, there have been a lot of people that have got you to the proverbial dance, right? But it's your time. It's your time to shine. Personally and professionally, let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Okay, well, yeah. Shout out to I guys give a shout out to Peter Day from Cut the Music. If he didn't have the equipment, I wouldn't be podcasting right now. Shout out to my dad, Diamond Dan Grondy. Uh, if he wasn't, I mean, if he didn't wrestle, I wouldn't be into wrestling right now. And shout out to Andre Corbel. He put me on YouTube. He was affiliated with the Vince Russo brand. There's a lot of bullshit with that, but he's always been good to me. I got to say, uh, yeah, shout out to, I would say those three. And my girlfriend, Jamie Taylor.
Yeah, I was about to say, you mentioned her earlier. Definitely,
Yeah.
because she knows where you sleep, my friend. Just
Yeah,
saying.
for sure. For sure.
And last but very not least, for people to get in contact with you,
Mhm.
on the socials to find out your fantastic podcast, such as linked in your Instagram bio. And I linked it all down here.
Oh,
But
nice.
I've done it once, but it bears repeating. Where can they find all of that for you?
Yeah, you can find the Curtain Jerkin podcast. If you type it on Spotify, it's also on WrestlingWithWrestling.com. It's on the Dragon Suplex Podcasting Network. And I talk about it all the time on Twitter at JG Pro Wrestling.
Damn right. And you might also have Instagram as well.
Yeah, the Instagram isn't moving as quick as the Twitter, but at JG Picture Taken is my Instagram if you want to talk to me about. I do running. I also promote my beer drive-through from the oldest brewery in North Carolina. So yeah, come through to the beer drive-through, say what's up, talk wrestling, talk beer, talk running. Uh, yeah, we got a car show coming up on November 13th, so come on out.
Yeah, bro. Oh shit! I wish I lived in North Kakalaki, so
Hell
I can
yeah.
fucking hang out with Jacob and fucking look at cars and talk wrestling and drink beers. So you live a fucking perfect life, Jacob Rondi, and your dad's a wrestler. My dad was
Yeah,
a keyboard player, whatever. Your dad is a fucking wrestler, and you
that's
like
a
wrestling.
keyboard
Yeah,
player.
so shout out to you. And
My dad actually, he's a big music fan. He wishes he was a keyboard player, honestly. So
that's so great. That's so fucking great. See, again, Jacob, this is why we're friends.
oh
You
yeah,
get this,
totally,
right? This
for
is
sure.
this is like this star-crossed and whatever, all the fucking Shakespearean shit. That's why. That's why
Oh
we
yeah,
are. I'm just saying. And thank you guys for watching us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I have the socials too, because like that's a thing or whatever. Where I'm sharing dumbass memes of probably people doing the worst of things to each other, lighting each other on fire, dumping each other on the head. That's what I'm into. I don't know. I'm fucked up. But according to the rules across the board, Jacob, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Oh hell yeah.
Hell yes. And go ahead and subscribe to his podcast. But if you don't believe me, you don't believe Jacob, and I don't know why you wouldn't, well, here's Professor Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods